Next upgrade is probably motor mounts, because the motor mounts is, you know, old, probably the original ones that came on the car, and I'm going to need newer ones. So the reason why you want to prop your hood up is because if you go to jack this motor up while doing the engine mounts, your engine's actually got to hit the hood of the car. So you guys are probably wondering, why am I replacing the engine mounts if they're not completely destroyed? Over time, rubber gets softer, gets more brittle, and all that sort of shit. So you don't need the engine mount to be destroyed for you to need to replace it. It just needs a lot of age and a lot of heat, which the BP motor in a stock setup with the cooling setup it has definitely gets hot and destroys the rubber quicker. The same reason why your shifter boots like to get destroyed a lot, because the whole car gets hot. Since I've replaced the slave cylinder, which you guys already seen, and I replaced the shifter boots, gave the whole transmission a whole fluid refresh. As I said before with the slave cylinder video, the engine moves around a lot. Like, as you can see, that little bit of movement, I'm not really pushing on it either. That little bit of movement right there that you saw, amplify that with the flywheel, amplify that the drivetrain dragging a little bit, multiply that by you using full throttle. It moves around a lot. Even if I start the car and do it, you'll see the engine moves heaps. And that can also lead you to miss shifts very easily. And even cornering, you can mess up your cornering as well, since the engine's moving around while you're adjusting the throttle mid-corner. As you guys gotta see, the motor moves around heaps. Okay, it is in neutral, not in a gear or anything. Watch how much it moves. So yeah, we're gonna take a lot of that movement. Even though it doesn't look like much while you're driving, that gets amplified heaps with actual driving. So yeah, we're just gonna replace it with a stiffer unit, replace all the old mounts and stuff, which has a mount on this side, down there, as you can see. I've already inspected them from under the car, and they do look fucking really old. So this side, where the exhaust side, that's probably going to be the hardest side to actually do, because I don't know if you can see, the engine mount's hidden right there. So what I might have to do is actually remove the exhaust manifold. We'll try to at least. So we're going to need to replace your motor mount. Is a ratchet, a couple of extensions, a swivel for your socket to move in different angles. This is probably a requirement. I couldn't imagine doing this without this, so definitely have this if you're going to do this. Unless, you know, you move everything out of the way. But if you're not going to move everything out of the way, get this. And 14 millimeters. So since I'm not going to be putting the car on jack stands, I'm probably going to have to use this with the smaller extension. If you take the wheel off, you can use the longer extension. So yeah, if you do it the proper way, use the longer one. If you're not going to do it the proper way like I am, use the shorter one. And you're going to need an impact wrench as well. So first step, you want to undo the engine mount bolt. That holds the bottom end of the engine mount in the subframe. Again, I'm not putting the car on jack stands, so this is going to be a little bit more difficult. So there should be a bolt and a washer. Do not lose the washer. The washer's there for a reason. So now that's undone. As you can see, I've got the bolt and washer right here. I forgot to mention, you're gonna need a jack and a small piece of wood as well. I did not put the sealant there, someone else did. So I undone both engine mounts. Since the engine mounts aren't completely destroyed, it's not like disconnecting, so hopefully this will kind of force it to disconnect. Alright, so I undid both engine mounts, jacked it up to force it to break free from where it was stuck on, which probably means it has never been replaced. Once the engine broke free, I actually put the bolt back on one side, make sure the engine's still aligned. Now, so we're only going to focus on this side, and we'll do the other side. The other side will be the same, but more complicated because there's an exhaust in the way. The only thing you really make sure of is make sure you're not crushing any wires, making the engine touch the chassis or anything, because that is a big no-no. So always check a little bit, check a little bit, check. You don't want to over-jack the car. Also, the car might fall on you if you over-jack it. Driver's side, if your right-hand drive is free, and we have to undo those 3 bolts. I'm not sure if there's a 4th one. There might be a 4th one. Actually, no, I think it's just those 3 bolts. So let's undo them. Sorry you guys can't see real well. I kind of live on a hill, so I can't actually put the car on jack stands. Also forgot to mention, it's probably a good idea to spray WD-40 on those bolts. It's easier if you don't put the tool on, you just try to put the socket on and then the tool. Oops, I can't remove the phone because I can't actually undo the bolts of the phone. So after cracking all the bolts, seeing how flexible you are and how many different size sockets you've got, you can undo them by hand. But keep track of which bolt goes where, because there's short thread bolts and long thread bolts. So always keep track. This is a short. I recommend you guys to get what I call a midget big ratchet. So what you do, you get any ratchet that's small, get 1/2 inch drive, put it in, and you get the big sockets on it. Then that way, if you have big bolts that are already kind of loose and you can loosen up with a little bit of leverage, this can fit anywhere. So if I remember correctly, one was the one, the short, and the long one was the one. So do not mix these up. A good way to do it is get just a piece of cardboard and draw what the engine mount looks like. Anyway, now's the fun part. I'm gonna try it from the top. Oh, I'm holding you guys upside down. So just pull it up and leave it there. Because I'm trying to find a way to get this out easy for you guys, so you don't need to do what I did. And I just chucked dirt all over my fucking engine bay. So I have an idea actually how to make this easier. Flip it upside down, and as you can see, the mount is actually held in with a bolt. As you can see, there's a bolt there. So I reckon I can impact that bolt off and make it easier to pull it all out. You can take the shield off. An actual hard mount. You take that off, slide it through your engine bay, like so. Put that to the side, don't forget the bolt. And now you should be able to just lift the mount out of the engine bay as well. Let's see what condition this engine mount's in. It's like covered in oil, and so it's been watered down. I'm barely putting any pressure on it, and actually I was right, there's a little tear here. So this was about to go out. And if this one's about to go out, I reckon the other side's the one that's probably destroyed. So this is the original mount. So that's what it looks like. And that's how it goes together. And then there's a bolt on this side as well. I undid the bolt to get it out of the engine bay. They are slightly different. This is a stock normal engine mount. As you can see, it's got some tearing, age, rust. I don't believe this has ever been replaced. And just for the sheer fact that this is horrendous, this is pretty filthy. And for it to tear like that, it takes at least 5 years for something rubber to do that. So even if they did replace it, it's far gone its due date. Because when they expect motor mounts, they don't replace it. They just look at it and go, oh yep, it's not broken. These are a slightly different design. These are MazdaSpeed ones. As you can see, it's symmetrical. This one's asymmetrical. You can tell by the curve here. So you just need to make sure this goes in the right hole, and that's it. So we're gonna clean this up, and then we'll put this in. So as you can see, all the bolts are in. I'll put those torque specs on the screen right now. Now we just need to lower the engine and bolt it back to the subframe. So after spending a million years to actually install it, now we're going to see if there's a major difference in play, or even noise as well. When you go to stiffer mounts, there's usually this additional noise as well. There's definitely a lot more noise. It's barely moving. It's like you can see it move a little bit. And the actual motor, you can see barely moving as well. So I think we should go for a quick drive and see if there's an actual big difference. Let's see how much better the gear changing is. So much better, holy shit. Gear changing feels like spot on now. But the sacrifice of stiffness is a lot, and I mean a lot of vibrations and additional noise. But in a sports car, you want that, really. You want to feel the car, you want to be able to get crispy gear changes and all that. So in this type of car, that's fine. Having a little bit more noise is fine. Me, I love harsh cars. I love cars that are aggressive. So for me, it's not that bad. But for you, maybe, you know, it's not for you to have additional harshness. I like this. And like, did you see that? Like, gear shifts are way smoother now too. The heel and towing feels better. So pretty much everything about the car's improved. Now we gotta see how if the handling's improved. My theory about the handling with the engine moving. Over time, the harshness will die off a little bit, but it's like a bell curve, really. Like, there's a certain stiffness where you don't sacrifice a lot of environment, like MVH and stuff. But once you reach over a certain stiffness, then, you know, you have like drastic noise without much additional stiffness. So it's very much a bell curve. It's very much like on personal preference. Was the stiffer engine mount worth it? Yes, definitely worth it. It's improved the whole car, improved gear changes, response, even a little bit of the turning. I don't feel like the car's gonna suddenly like snap oversteer or anything like that. Because you gotta think too, when you have a lot of engine movement, and you put your foot down in the middle of a corner, that movement of the motor transfers into your cornering forces as well. So if you have a lot of engine movement, obviously that's going to affect your handling drastically as well. So yeah, it's way worth it, especially if your current mounts are like destroyed. The only thing, sorry, it's rattling. The only thing really bad about it is the noise. But then again, you know, if you enjoy a raw car, you probably like the noise. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.